Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television and radio talk show. Thank you so much for watching. Every day, Monday through Friday, beginning 2 p.m. on the Eastern Time Zone, as I get to watch you and have a good, fun time with you. Thank you so much, by the way, for sending emails. I'm loving it, so you're not bothering me at all. Donna at donnasedge.com, Donna at donnasedge.com. You can watch us on television. We're syndicated on Abundance Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on thenewscasters.com. And don't forget this radio station. You know what? They say that they're the biggest in South Carolina, and I kind of believe they are, And so this is WZLA. They are 92.9 on the dial. So make sure you do check them out. I have Jody Powell with me right now. Jody, I love the shows. I mean, we're having so much fun. And Jody is a wrestling commentator. And I'm just telling you, wrestling grows on you. I mean, it just really does.
Yeah. Well, Donna, first of all, thanks for having me back. It's been an absolute blast to be on with you several times, and always a joy to be on your show. So thank you for that. But you're right. Wrestling can just kind of grow on you. And it's funny. I saw something. I don't know. I was scrolling through social media. I don't know, TikTok or Reels or something, and and I saw a meme, a little video reel of a guy that is about our age, and he said, and in the background was the theme song for The Young and the Restless, and the meme was, "This is the time that I knew at Grandma's house it was time to sit down and be quiet," because Grandma was watching her stories.
Yeah.
And that's what wrestling is for men, especially for men, but really for a lot of women as well. It's the story, it's the soap opera, it's the fun of trying to figure out what's going to happen next and who's going to turn on who and what plot twists are going to happen, all mixed in with some incredible athletic ability and just really acrobatics, really fun watching people just come up with innovative ways to generate offense in the wrestling ring and try something that's never been done before. Some of it death-defying, and sometimes I cringe and look away like, "Oh, don't do that! You're not going to be able to do it." And somehow they just pull it off, and it grows on you for sure.
Oh, it does, and you have to be very athletic to be a wrestler.
You have to be very athletic. It is a very tough business, and when I say tough, you have to be okay with pain. You have to have a high pain tolerance. In my time in wrestling, I've had people come up to me and use the F word, fake. No, don't say that. Don't ever say that F word to a wrestler. It's not fake. It's very offensive to claim that wrestling is fake, because it's really not. That canvas, that mat, is hard. And it does have some bounce and some give to it. It would have to, because no one's going to be able to slam around on boards that don't give. But there's still 2x6 boards under that thin mat, and so it does hurt. You have to be tough, have to have a high pain tolerance, but you also have to be very agile and athletic. And I'm amazed, just not only being a fan, but now being kind of in the business, so to speak, to see how these things come together and how these athletes truly perform. It gives you a newfound respect for what they do inside a wrestling ring.
Oh, you better believe it does. Lash LaRue, I told you about, he was in our youth class in Alabama, and I don't know. He was an undercover. When I found out he was getting into wrestling, and that was a career choice for him. Not necessarily I was surprised, because he's always very athletic and that kind of thing. I don't know. Because he wore a suit and tie. If you ever see him, he always wore suit and tie. Now this is back in the 90s, and that was the look. Everybody was wearing suit and tie. But he would come to church with a suit and tie on. And then when we would have these youth, fun days and go into the gymnasium and sleep-ins and all those things, well, then he'd wear still kind of dress up. I mean, he would wear like this jacket, with his, slacks and, so he just didn't look like the rest of the kids were wearing blue jeans and T-shirts. And I said, so I ran into him, and he wanted to come by and see me. He'd been traveling. So he came by my business, and I said, he said, "Are you surprised?" And I said, yeah. And he said, why? And I said, I guess because of the way you used to dress, like other kids were dressed casual and you wore suits and ties. And I said, I guess that's why. I don't know, but and I'm gonna tell you what, he had it in his blood, and I didn't know it. He had a
Yeah.
brother. His brother would have been the one you would have thought, and he turned into the businessman. So there's just it's like what's going on, but I don't know. And he had this has this leadership quality to him because the other kids looked up to him.
Sure. Well, it's interesting too, because you said something there that's very factual, and it happens. You said it gets in his blood, and a lot of the wrestlers that I'm around talking to, some of the younger wrestlers that are training will tell them you'll get the bug. That's what they call it. You'll get the bug, and the bug of wanting to be in the ring, wanting to go back, wanting to do it again. And that's how you know who is truly serious about being a pro wrestler and who's not. If you can take the bumps, if you can take the pain, if you can take the soreness, and Donna, it's literally after training in the ring, and I've trained several times in the ring, it really feels like you've been in a car wreck. You have whiplash, you can't hardly move, because it truly is equivalent to that. Just bumping around and falling. People say, well, they learn how to fall. Well, yes, you learn how to not get a concussion, but it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. It absolutely hurts. But you have to have that desire and that passion that it sounds like you saw in Lash. And I know Lash LaRue, I remember him, and remember what a great wrestler he was. He definitely was one of the guys that had the passion for it, which was just it's something that's contagious, and you just want to be around it.
Well, he was a leader in the church even back in the day. And so with kids, you have to kind of work out with them, and if you want them to work on a project, you got to get really, really creative with them. Right. What I wanted to do was grow the church, and quite a few kids had started coming to our events, and so I thought it was really great. So I came up with this idea. So I asked Lash to help us with it, and I said, so we really want to grow this. I want to get a bunch of kids, to the lockdown that we're going to have. And he said, what do you got in mind? And I said, well, the pastor of the church was like Mr. Clean Cut, never hair out of place. I mean, he had his suit and tie and all that kind of stuff. I said, what can you talk him into, if we get, let's say, like 200 kids to come to this event, that we can all take turns throwing pies at him? I know it'll mess his hair up and all that, but do you think you could talk him into that? And he said, I think you could talk him into it better than I could. So anyway, I put it out there, and he said, yeah, I'll do it, which surprised me. And then Lash he was huge in getting and we had more than 200 kids to come up for that event.
Yeah, those kind of things are so fun too. It's great to have leaders who are willing to do the things that people want them to do, or people would want to see, in order to rally the troops, so to speak. I've seen that in businesses, that in past lives I've run United Way campaigns, and if you can get the CEO in the dunk tank or at the pie throwing, those kind of things where people have an opportunity to hopefully just playfully take out some frustrations on the leadership. Some of them were, there were definitely some secret pent up frustrations being brought out in some of these events, but it's this. I think it's really done. I think it's the sign of a really strong, good leader who is able to humble themselves, not think highly of themselves, not think too high of themselves, to not be willing to kind of bring themselves down to that level, so to speak. So I've always felt like the leaders who are willing to do the things necessary to kind of rally the troops and bring people together are truly the great leaders, whether it's in businesses or in churches or in wrestling or wherever it is. It's the ones who are unselfish, who are humble, and who really want to see others succeed, that end up being the best leaders that you could possibly have.
Well, let's talk about the ministry, because I think you're really onto it. So we had one of your segments at the radio station here in Abbeville, South Carolina. I'll tell you what, people got into that. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not surprised. So let's talk about do you guys travel with the event as well?
We do. We travel. We'll do church shows. We do fundraisers. We'll do public events. We've been in several county fairs. Those shows at the fairs. I tell you, we were in Union, South Carolina, kind of the opposite way of Abbeville, and we were there for 2 nights at the fair, and it was just absolutely packed. And a packed house, a great crowd. They wanted to see some really fun, good wrestling, and we got to share the gospel at the fair. And I think a lot of those people were probably in church Sunday morning, so it's something they've heard. But you never know who was not, and who didn't go to church, or who doesn't believe in going to church, that needs to hear the gospel. And we were able to, on both nights, have a couple of people share their testimony. And really give an opportunity for people to come to know the gospel and to know the gift that Christ gave. And so it was really, it was an opportunity for us to be able to do what we love to do in wrestling, but also do what we love to do in telling others about the Lord. And it was fantastic. So yeah, we'll travel. We've traveled all over the Southeast. We were in, last year, we were in Ringgold, Georgia, which is right there near the border of Tennessee. And we had a big youth event there for several churches that got together. We were in a gymnasium and had probably 400 to 500 middle schoolers. So the noise, you can imagine, gyms are going to echo anyway.
Yeah.
So
right.
the squealing and the loud and the cheering, and I mean, it felt like we were in an arena of 10,000 people. And again, had a great wrestling show, but in the intermission, we were able to, I think I actually spoke at that one, I was able to share the gospel and share a testimony and a little bit about wrestling for Christ, and tie that into why that group was meeting. They had a certain theme they were building on for their youth retreat, and it was just a fun event. And those are the kind of events that I really enjoy, where you have the opportunity to reach someone who may not necessarily go to church every Sunday, or may not want to go to church. You invite people to go to church all the time. Like, I don't know if I want to do that. Invite them to a wrestling show, and they're like, yeah, let's go. And then they get to hear the gospel anyway. So it's a great thing.
I think it's a great thing too. I don't know how many times I've worked with Bible schools where the parents would drop the kids off, and the parents never went to church anywhere.
Right.
But they would come to that event, the end of the declaration event,
Mm-hmm.
at the Bible school, and then they start coming back. I mean, you never know. I mean, so you never know what it's going to take just to put somebody on the right track.
Well, and the thing that I think that's really important, because I'm a little bit OCD. I'm a little bit, I want things to flow just right. I want those events to be exactly what I want them to be. But really, the thing especially about sharing during intermission, sharing testimonies, or having a speaker, is that we can make all the plans we want, but God's going to use that speaker the way that God sees fit. He knows who's there. He knows what they need to hear and who they need to hear it from. And those plans may not match mine, so I have to kind of step back and allow God to move in those moments, and not let it be about the wrestling, and not let it be about the announcing, but let it be truly about spreading the gospel, which is the ultimate goal. We were at one of our home churches Sunday night, and just sharing about the ministry and what is happening. Of course, our major focus is on the Philippines, and we do mission trips there, and they're going through a lot right now with a typhoon that is just, it's devastating. But they've been through that before. In fact, in July, there was a typhoon that came through when one of our guys was still in the Philippines, and the pastor called him up and said, "Hey, I want you to come down and check out my yacht." And he goes down, and the yacht was an old refrigerator that he had gutted and put on bamboo to allow the people to get to the church door because of the flood. It didn't matter that they had a typhoon. It didn't matter that the streets were flooded. They were getting people into the church so that they could have church on Sunday morning. That's kind of the impact and the effect of what the Lord can do through any kind of ministries, including wrestling ministries. It's very
You know what
cool.
this reminds me of Gilligan's Island, where you had the professor on there. You could make radio, you could do all these things, but he could not build a boat to send them back.
Yeah, and I'm anxious to go on our next trip. Hoping I'm going to be able to do that in June of 26. But really, from the pictures and from the stories that I hear about the trip to the Philippines, they're not staying in hotels in Manila. They're going deep into the jungle. They're going out into the communities. Not even the towns. They're just a little, couple of buildings in the middle of this jungle, and they'll ask the pastor, well, what's behind the church here? What's back in the jungle? And they'll say, we don't know. We don't go back there. We don't, people go back behind into the jungle and they don't come back. And so, it's very primitive in parts. It's very much third world in a lot of areas. And those are the areas that we want to go and tell others about the Lord, because, at the end of the day, the Bible says that, that before Christ can return, every single person has to be able to have access and to hear the word of God. And that's why I believe we're given the Great Commission. And so we're doing our part as best we can with the tools and the talents that God gave us.
Well, let me ask you a question. Now, when you guys take the trips, do you look for donations, food, or supplies, anything like that?
We're always taking donations and sending them to the Philippines. A lot of times the easier thing is to have donations of money, and then we buy the supplies and send them over. I would say, for Wrestling for Christ, no one takes a salary. No one takes, any portions of the donations. Everything that is raised goes straight back into the mission. And, there's expenses to run the shows, of course, and you have to pay rent for buildings and pay for some of the talent. But the majority of the funds that come in, those of us that are there week in and week out, we don't take a salary. We don't take pay. That's our mission work. That's what we do. And we put it back towards that. And so, donating to the ministry allows us to purchase the things that are needed over there. And there are several churches that we work with, pastors over in the Philippines, who will let us know, say, hey, you know what? Right now we're trying to repair, our ladies' room or our vestibule or whatever it is, and we need X, Y, and Z in supplies. And so we'll buy the supplies and ship them over. And so it's that monetary donation goes a long way. But then there are other items that, the food, those kind of things. And we were talking about a trip that happened a couple of years ago. There was a young couple that went with us, and his name was James. He was known as the Candy Man. He brought with him just bags and bags and bags full of candy, and would just pass them out to the children. And then in one little village, he was passing out Jolly Ranchers. Donna, they didn't know what it was. They didn't know what to do with it.
Wow.
They'd never seen Jolly Ranchers before. And so, he took one out, opened it, put it in his mouth, and just kind of showed them, hey, this is, and these children opened just a little pack of Jolly Ranchers, just a little Jolly Rancher, put it in their mouth, and their eyes lit up. They were like, oh, wow. And just to be able to see something so simple as a piece of candy that someone's never seen or tasted before, it really is a great metaphor for sharing the gospel with someone, because if they've never heard it before and they receive it, and and the Lord touches their heart, He's like, oh wow, that's incredible, and it's an amazing thing to see. And so it's in fact, James's wife Lana, she is a beautician. She does hair, and she took she had a chair. She took all of her tools. She set up a chair in the middle of the village, out in the public square there in the village. And everyone from the village residents to the indigenous people that were coming out of the jungle were coming to get their hair cut. Some of them for the first time ever.
Oh, wow.
And so she just sat there and she cut hair all day long, and she had the opportunity to tell everyone that was sitting in her chair about the Lord. So you just use the talents and the tools God gave you to to spread the gospel and to share with others. And it's an amazing thing when you see that Jolly Rancher reaction.
Yeah, absolutely. Now Phil and I have been on several missionary trips, construction type stuff, and we're hands-on people anyway. Give me a hammer and I'm having fun, but anyway, we went, and so I'm an Auburn fan and Phil's an Alabama fan. We've talked about this. It gets nasty that one week. We're coming up on it. It's going to be
it's coming. Yep.
And we can write a textbook on a happy marriage, except for that 1 week. It's rough. But anyway, I don't know if somebody was pulling my leg or what. But we went to Africa, and a lot of folks donate clothes, to people when you're going into third. We went to South Uganda. And so somebody said, "Hey, there's a guy running down there with an Alabama shirt on." And I said, "Like Alabama the state or Alabama Roll Tide?" And they said, "Alabama Roll Tide." And I'm going, "Oh, come on." Really. And Phil said, "See, there are even Alabama fans here." I mean, they know what the football team is. And I'm like,
that sounds like something an Alabama fan would say.
So, of course, I could be obnoxious too, I guess. But anyway, is you never know what you're going to find when you go there.
Yeah.
It's something. And I was amazed at the cell phones. We went to Bolivia. They had better cell phones than we did.
Yeah.
But they were digital before we were. We were still analog back in that day. That was in the 90s, early 90s.
Yeah. What's really intriguing for me is when we go and we see how people make do with what they have, and the creativity of building things and inventing things and using things in ways that you would never imagine, just like the refrigerator being gutted to ferry people across the flood to get to the church. They just do, whatever comes their way, they just accept it, and they do, and they deal with it. And it's inspiring to see. And it really puts into perspective, I think, how spoiled we are as Americans, and in other countries who are in situations where we're not third world. We have technologies. We have people who will bring us food, from restaurants. That little DoorDash card comes up to my house a little way too often, and we take it for granted. And there are people that not only don't have DoorDash, they don't have food. Every day is a battle to find where their next meal is coming from. And for them, it's life. It's the way things are. For us, it would be catastrophic. I mean, think about how it was during the pandemic. Everyone freaking out because we were out of toilet paper. It's very sobering to see how people can be so happy and so joyful and so content in situations where we would just be absolutely losing our minds.
Well, I'm just telling you, the craftsmanship that I saw when we were in South Uganda was incredible. So there were we went out to the village, and so there were a number of people just making stuff. And so there were two men who were making chairs. And it's the way they made them. I mean, it was like they were kind of, compact, and we bought some. So, and they were only asking $10 with all of that work. They were doing heart carving. Mine was like a giraffe, and there was a bunch of flowers and stuff. The way this guy, we were sitting there watching him cut it with a knife. Now, I'm not talking about through a manufacturing company where they're doing it on an assembly line doing it. He was just doing that. So we asked $10 for it. Well, Phil gave him a $20 bill. And because they could take the money, they could take our cash. And so the guy got offended. And so Phil looked at the guy, the missionary, and he said, "What did I do?" And he said, "He only wants $10.
Yeah.
He said, "I'm trying to give him a tip." And he said, "He doesn't want a tip. He just wants the $10. And that was a lesson for me. It was like, wow.
Right. Yeah. That's so interesting too, because when you're planning on going on mission trips, and this, having done them before, it's really important, if you're going to plan to go somewhere, to prepare for that, prepare for the cultural norms, understand what they are, And it's just like asking the pastor, what's behind the church. Well, I would have been the type of person that I'm not asking. I'm just going to walk back there and start going on a hike and see, and not realizing that I'm probably hiking into something that is not safe. So yeah, it's really, I think if anyone has a heart for missions and you want to go somewhere and you make a plan to go on a mission trip, do the research, be prepared for what some of the cultural norms are. Because you're right, I've heard the same thing in other parts of the world. It's like, oh, I want to give a tip. Well, tipping is considered to be offensive in some cultures, and yeah, they'll get offended, and isn't that funny though? Because I think it's kind of gotten a little out of hand in our culture, and I think I always try to be a really good tipper when we go out to eat at a restaurant or something like that. Wait staff, they're there as someone who is providing service. I think it's just atrocious that they are not paid a minimum wage and they have to rely on the tips to earn a living. I've never understood why that industry has been carved out to be allowed to pay that way. And I know there's economics behind it to make food more expensive, whatever. But, I think in some ways, though, like if I'm walking up to a counter and someone's taking my order and that's all they do, and I pick up my food and I clean off my table and there's a tip jar there, that's a little much for me.
Me too. I'm like, what's this about? What's this? We're going to have to go into it. We have some new sponsors. And so we're adding those in. So we're going to have to go into two breaks this time. So let's go into a commercial break, and we're going to return in just a few minutes. Hang in there. Queen City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community. Whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need, toys at Christmas, or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. We're back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television talk show where truth matters. I've got Jody Powell with me right now. And Jody, we've got some new sponsors and need to talk about them just for a few minutes so we can keep having the show. So we'll be right with that in just a bit. My Patriot Supply has come on board, and I just wanted to mention this. If you go to my website, donnasedge.com, donnasedge.com. It's My Patriot Supply. Click on the link. They're running some super deals right now, and you can save a lot of money. It's some real good Thanksgiving and Christmas deals they're running right now. And also Eggs Up Grill. I had never heard of them before, and they're right here in our neck of the woods in Greenwood. I think there's one in Anderson out that way. And I really like this concept. Okay, so they have breakfast and they have lunch. Okay, and you can have breakfast at lunch, which is sometimes what we do anyway, and it's pretty cool. So they are giving away a $25 gift certificate and a gift card, and this is every Friday. So they're doing that. So I wanted to thank them for that. By the way, they're adding about 100 new locations in the United States, so they're doing very, very well. And that's the Eggs Up. Have you been to that one in your
Absolutely love the Eggs Up Grill. I have been many times, and I love a good cup of coffee, Donna. And I'm not talking about the frou mocha latte macchiato stuff. No, you can have all that. I just want a good cup of coffee, and I've found only a few places that make really good, just drip coffee. Eggs Up Grill has fantastic coffee. I love to go there and get their coffee. They have these bowls of and I forget what they're called, but they're basically breakfast bowls that are just delicious. You mix the eggs and the bacon and the sausage in, and then you throw in a really good cup of coffee. And now I'm hungry, so I'm going to be going to Eggs Up Grill right after we're done.
We're about bringing that up. Now, here's the test of coffee. Okay, you've got to have the cup here. Okay, you've got to get a spoon. It's got to stick straight up. I mean, it won't fall down. To me, that's a great cup of coffee. Okay.
It sounds like you like the dirt that the coffee was grown in to be in your coffee.
I do. I want to grow my own so I can eat the dirt. So anyway, so they're good. And also honey baked ham. Go ahead and get your orders in now, okay, for honey baked ham. And if you're not a ham person, which we are, we love ham. But if you'd rather have the turkey, they make great turkeys. And they're not dry. I mean, these are. And you can get lunch there, the turkey sandwiches, whatever you want. So go ahead and check them out as well. And we want to thank all of our existing sponsors as well. We definitely appreciate you guys. Absolutely. Well, Jody, we're talking about your ministry. And I think it's a wonderful ministry that you guys have out there. But
thank you.
Yeah, and missionary and all those things. But I wanted to ask you this. Okay, so somebody does want to send donations to you guys for your trips and for other parts of the ministry, where do they need to send it?
Yeah, good question. So we actually have a QR code that is on our YouTube channel, and you can find that on YouTube at Wrestling for Christ WFC. So if you search for that, you'll see all of our weekly wrestling shows, and within that, you'll see commercials for the Philippines trip that has a QR code in that. You can go to our website, wrestlingforchrist.org. Check out our Facebook page. We're on Facebook, Wrestling for Christ. That gives a lot of information to send donations. And again, those donations go directly into the ministry of spreading the gospel. And I've talked a lot about the Philippines, Donna. There's a lot of things that we do locally as well. We just had a big wrestling show in Kings Mountain last weekend where we were collecting coats. And we partnered with a wonderful motorcycle ministry, Armored Saints Motorcycle Ministry, and their home base is Love Spring Baptist Church out in Cowpen, South Carolina. And we partnered with them. They had a big motorcycle ride on Saturday that ended at the American Legion in Kings Mountain, which is where we were having the wrestling show. So they ended their ride, pulled in, parked, went inside, and we put on a fantastic show, raised a lot of warm coats, which are needed right now, apparently, because there's just a deep freeze coming across the South. And I think that's a precursor of what's coming this winter. It seems like it's going to be a cold winter. So we're going to be distributing those coats and helping feed the homeless right there in Cowpens and in the Gaffney area coming up on December 6th. And we'll also be handing out those coats and making sure that the people who truly need it get those things that were donated. They were donated by our fans, donated by everyone that came to the show, and Boy, we collected a lot. It was fantastic.
That sounds great. So let me ask you a question. Do you guys have any type of Christmas programs? Do you do anything like that right now?
Typically we will. We're in a little bit of a transition right now, and so through that, we're not going to have any wrestling shows until after the first of the year. So our last show was the one with the coat drive, but I know that we're going to do not only the homeless, feeding the homeless there with partnering with Love Spring there, but all in the Armored Saints, but also coming up we'll have food drives. We always do food drives, canned foods, non-perishable items that we donate to local food banks. Typically what we'll do there is have the opportunity to bring a donation in lieu of paying to get into the event. And so where that ticket would have been $10, go spend $10 at the grocery store, bring in some non-perishable food items, and we make sure those get into the hands of people locally that actually need that as well. And so, it's funny. A lot of times we talk so much about the Philippines. Our hearts are with the Philippines. A lot of people say, "Well, that's wonderful. That's great." But what about the folks around here? And there's a lot of hardship and suffering going on right here in our community. We're involved in all of that as well. It's always fun to do benefit shows for people who are in need that ask for that. We love to do church fundraisers. Now those are interesting because you have to. We talked about leaders. We talked about having the right leaders in ministries and in churches. There are some folks that really just don't understand the whole wrestling ministry and feel like it's contradictory, and you can't possibly expect me to believe that a WWE show is going to be talking about Jesus. Well, we're not a WWE show. I think there are things in this world, Donna, that people will say, well, that's just evil. Well, the things aren't evil. It's the people that use them for evil ways that are evil. And so we love professional wrestling. We use it in a way that we believe God has led us to use it, and we do so in a way that's family friendly. Our guys are not out there cursing or doing any kind of nefarious moves in the ring that would that you'd see on TV. We wrestle with our shirts on. We don't let our guys take their shirts off. It's that kind of environment where you would be comfortable coming and being entertained, but also comfortable bringing your kids to meet some of these guys and to cheer the good guys and boo the bad guys. Now, I'm not saying we don't have bad guys. We've got bad guys, but they're bad good guys.
I like that, bad good guy. Yeah, I like that. That was always the thing to me about wrestling, though, is like, the guy would be like a good guy, and then he'd go bad, and then he'd go back good again. Yeah. It's like you were rooting that on. It's like you're rooting the process. You're rooting the good versus the bad.
It truly can be and has been an age old story. The whole good versus evil.
Yeah. And
I think sometimes those lines can blur a little bit because a lot of people will identify with a bad guy that they like and cheer, and but at the end of the day, it truly comes down to right versus wrong, good versus evil. The bad guys cheat, and the good guys always seem to find a way to prevail, even though the bad guys are cheating. And it's fun, and I'll be honest with you. As a commentator, I try to remain neutral around, but sometimes you get into the storylines, and you're part of the show, and I truly enjoy. And my nickname is the Gentleman Jody Powell, and that's kind of my wrestling gimmick, and so I love being the good guy. I love getting the cheers. I love high-fiving the fans and kind of pointing out all of the cheating that goes on by the bad guys. Now, my wife, who is also involved in the ministry, mostly because I coerced her to be involved with it. She is our commissioner. She is the commissioner of the WFC and kind of makes all the matches. And on screen, she is a bad guy, and we clash. On screen, and we go back and forth, and if you knew her, if you know her, you're thinking, how in the world could this sweet, soft-spoken, just wonderful lady be a bad guy, and she loves it. She loves portraying that, and she'll come out.
Ego, right? Her alter ego.
It's exactly the alter ego, and she does a really good job of doing that, and never really grew up watching wrestling. Only knows about wrestling because she married a wrestling junkie, and has had a lot of fun just being part of the show, and being able to be out, go with me on our trips, and to be able to meet fans and have little girls come up to her. It was so sweet. After a first couple of shows she was on, she had a little girl that came up to her. She's about 7 years old, and asked for her autograph and said, "You're my absolute favorite." And it was, and I asked her, I said, "Well, what did you say?" And she said, I said, "Well, oh, thank you, sweetie." And I gave her a big hug. I said, "No, you can't do that. You're the bad. You're not supposed to do that." But she was not gonna be the bad guy to that sweet little girl, and just gave her a hug, gave her an autograph, and it blessed her as much as it blessed that little girl, I guarantee you. And that's the wonderful thing about this mission is there are times that we go with the intent of spreading the gospel and being a blessing to other people. And God just blesses us with so many things that happen. So many people just being inspired and giving their hearts to the Lord, and seeing people make a profession of faith because they came to a wrestling show. It blesses us as much as it does the people that come.
How many times do you see people out in the audience and they're doing all this while the wrestling thing comes on, and then when you start talking about Christ, they go,
Yeah.
And then you'll see them go, "Tell me more."
Yeah, it's interesting to watch, and I love to watch, especially when I'm speaking. Now, I'll watch when others are speaking, but when I'm speaking and I'm sharing, I will make eye contact with that person who starts off kind of turning to the side or looking down at their cell phone or whatever, not paying, just enduring the intermission until the wrestling show starts again. And I'll try to make eye contact and really, provide smiles and nods, and it kind of draws them in. And so I'll see that light bulb go off. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes people won't look up from their phone. Sometimes they'll get up and they'll walk away. They'll go, to the concession, or they'll go outside or whatever. They'll go to the bathroom, and they just don't want to have any part of it. And that's their choice. That God gives us free will. We're not gonna lock the doors and force you to stay in the room if you don't want to stay in the room. But those are the ones that I truly I'm praying for, that maybe that night was not the night, but hopefully there is a night coming. It planted a seed. Hopefully they heard something or saw something that God can use to continue to work on that person to come to know the Lord. And so it's all variety, and then we'll have some people who are just amening and praising and raising hands and doing all this while we're in intermission, and then they're shaking their fist, and you're worried that they're gonna jump the rail and attack some of our guys during the wrestling show.
You said something about some of the people just walk off, look at their phones, whatever, but you never know the after effect, because while they're doing that, the kids are probably listening.
Yes.
And then the kid's going to go home and say something to the parents.
Yes.
And you never know. Most of the times the kids lead them through you guys.
It happens so much. And you mentioned Bible school. That's the probably the main way that a family would come to a church and come to know the Lord through the children going to vacation Bible school. And the kids get so excited, and it's tough for adults, I think, Donna, because we go through life and we can kind of get beat down by life. Things happen, and when you're young, you're dying to be an adult. You're just waiting for that opportunity to be on your own. Then when you get to be an adult, you're like, why in the world did I ever want to do this? There's so many responsibilities and so many things happening. I think we as adults can get a little jaded. And even if you grew up in church, even if you grew up as a Christian, you can get jaded, you can get beat down, you can get just weary. And you know, that's why the Lord said, come to me, you who are weary, and I will give you rest. We just have to understand that that's where we need to go. And anything that the world offers, anything that life brings your way, you know, those are things that can all be handled through a relationship with the Lord. Some people say God will never put on you more than you can handle. I don't agree with that at all. I think God will put on so much more than you can handle so that you will turn to him, so that he handles it for us. Because if I can handle it, and why do I need God for? God's going to put so much more on me than I can handle, that I need help, and I need to be brought back. So.
And I'm one of those, a house has to fall on me. I mean, I'm just one of those. Yeah. And I try not to be, but I am. Let's go into the last break, and then we're going to be right back in just a few minutes. Y'all hang in there. Queen City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. Donna's Designs offers a line of handmade memorial, wedding, and keepsake jewelry that launched back in 1970. I'm a self-trained jewelry designer, and I will work closely with you to create unique designs you can love and treasure for years to come. Whether that be flowers that were used in a funeral arrangement or stones you found on the beach at a memorable trip, call me at 256-659-4319, and let's think of the possibilities.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer
yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
Good afternoon. We're back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television talk show where truth matters. And I got to speak the truth right now. Jody, publicly, I'm going to apologize for what happened with the schedule. So what happened? I didn't pay any attention. So I had somebody who's 2 time zones behind me from California that I had set up. And I started looking at it, and I'm going, oh, Jody's going to kill me because I've got somebody else left to do. So publicly, I apologize for that. Maybe I'll do that again.
Oh, bless your heart. You don't have to do that, but I appreciate that. You know, and here's the thing, Donna, time zones are one thing, but then when you start moving the clock up and back every spring and fall, I don't even know. It's hard enough to remember what day it is, let alone what time it is. I love daylight saving time in the summer. I love it staying light late. And so if they're going to mess with it, if they're going to do away with it in the summer when it stays lighter later. And I know it's perfect, isn't it? I mean, you know, you can get off work and you come home and you still have 3 or 4 hours of daylight to do things that outside that you want to do. And boy, this dark at 5:30 thing is just tough.
Yeah, I'm not into that.
Mm-mm.
I'm just not. And the older we get, I mean, I've got to have some daylight anyway. I'm speaking for myself, not for you. I'm just saying I need the daylight. There's going to come a time that I can't drive at night, probably.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it happen with my grandparents, and I'm just kind of preparing for that day. So, President Trump, if you're listening right now, let's please make it easier for us, okay? So anyway, we're talking to Jody Powell's with us right now. It's always so much fun to have you on the show, you know, and I love your heart. You know, your heart is just is where it needs to be. And I can see the passion for people. Absolutely. I wanted to ask you another question, and this also pertains for your trips and when you guys are having shows and that kind of thing. Are you guys looking for volunteers to help you put some of these events that?
Yes, always. And it could be anything. So we love to, of course, we love to have these events filmed. And so if always searching for people who are willing to run a camera for us. And if you've ever thought that you wanted to be involved in something like that, you don't need any experience. Listen, we'll show you how to do it and what needs to be done and what we're looking for. And those kind of things. If you've ever just wanted to be involved in a wrestling show somehow, we love to have volunteers, and we're always looking for volunteers. In fact, I'll tell you a story. We had a young man who wanted to volunteer with us, and he just showed up at a wrestling show one night, and I got to talking with him, and he was invited by, I think he knows one of our wrestlers, and he was invited to come to the show, and he's like, yeah, I've always loved wrestling. I never knew how I could get involved. And I said, well, do you want to get involved tonight? Because, I could use some help. And he's like, are you serious? Like, yeah, absolutely. And so all he did, he kind of worked security for us. And so, and what I mean by that is not that we have a need for security to keep people from, doing crazy things, but it's just kind of making sure people aren't in areas they're not supposed to be, behind the guardrails or near the commentary table. And people inadvertently will, how people do in church, they want to pick their seats. Well, we have seats set up around the ring. There are people come in and move in chairs, and we're like, we don't want you to move the chairs. Please don't do that. And so that was his first start. And that's what he did. And for a couple of shows, he would come in, he would sit, he would kind of help people, find their seats and keep things kind of running in order. And then after that, one night came, I said, hey, you know what? We need a camera guy. Would you be interested in trying to do it? Absolutely. And he did a great job on the camera. From there, he was one of the guys that would go to the ring, and he would collect all the coats and the jackets and all the stuff that the wrestlers wear to the ring, because you don't want them piled up in the corners. That's one of my pet peeves. I told you I was OCD, but one of my pet peeves is, if we have like wrestlers ring outfits in the corner, just take all that stuff to the back. And so he would do that. Well, today he's one of our referees. He trained with our guys to learn how to referee. He was put in all of the work, and now he's in the show. He's a referee, and he's training to be a wrestler. So you never know where it goes when you step into something like this. It's the same story with me. I just happened to step into something like this, and all of a sudden here I am, a year and a half later, I'm doing commentary, I'm doing ring announcing, we're doing production, editing, all of these things. And so we're always looking for people who are willing to volunteer, who have a passion for the business and huge wrestling fans, but they just want to be a part of it. We'll put you to work. So yeah, definitely reach out to us. Again, our Facebook, Wrestling for Christ, is probably the best way. Send us a DM on there, and I would say that too for anyone that is like thinking, well, it'd be cool to have a wrestling show at our church, to do a youth event or a fundraiser. Reach out. Facebook. We bring the ring, we bring the guys. We work with churches on their budgets. We've done it for gymnasium full of 300, 400 people. We've done it for 20 people sitting around the ring. It's just something that we're passionate about. And some preachers that we go to a church show, they want to get involved. We have a preacher. They want to get in the ring. Now, and here's so you kind of have to know, and I love him to death. He's pastor in Kings Mountain. His name's preacher Michael Rice, and he is passionate. And boy, he can bring the message. He is strong in his faith. And he brings just a powerful message. And he said, hey, I want to do more. And he came out one night, and we had one of our bad guys, one of our masked guys, the stormtrooper, come out and interrupt his sermon. And he interrupted him, and preacher scooped him up and body slammed him right there in the ring. It was fantastic. It was spotless. It was perfect. And he brought a group from his church. They went wild. They were cheering around. And now he calls himself, instead of the nature boy Ric Flair, he calls himself the preacher boy.
Ooh.
It went so far as the preacher boy was involved in an actual wrestling match in one of our shows. They love to get involved, and he did a great job. And I actually was able to put on a mask and was the manager of our stormtrooper during the match with Pastor Rice, and we just, we're barbing back and forth and jawing at each other, and he just got into it, and his church got into it. Well, we went also to set up the ring in their gym, and we did their Vacation Bible School closing night. We had a wrestling event there, and it was fantastic. It was great. It's amazing how it truly can, with the right leadership, how it can work into just a fun way to raise money, to bring attention, to bring people from the community into your church. And, and then we let the Lord take care of the rest.
You know what? I've been thinking about this since the first part of the segment, okay? Because my dad was a minister and Phil's dad was a minister too. And they were kind of like, they were friends, but they were kind of like Grumpy Old Men, the Grumpy Old Men movie. Where they liked each other, liked Phil and me, but they would just like pick on each other all the time. And they were ministers or pastors of church. And I was just thinking it would have been so fun if they were still alive.
We could have set up a good
into it. I think I could have talked them into it. They would have got in the ring.
I mean, we could have set up a good match between preacher versus preacher.
And Asheville, I said, why are dad? Well, okay, we fall in love and we get married, okay, but our dads act like they're at each other's throats all the time. And he said, no, they remind me of that couple on Andy Griffith that couldn't get along with each other. They were constantly fighting. But then they started getting nice, and that's what they did. I mean, they would just argue the point with each other on everything. And I was just thinking about that. Man, if those two men were still alive, we would get them in the ring. I mean, it would be so much fun. And they would be the type that would welcome you. I mean, they would say, whatever it takes, man, if we can get some people in, we're in, just any way to spread the word. I mean, just whatever in the right way, of course. And that's what you guys are doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, there are some people that are just very curious, pastors especially, they're just very curious about what we do, and we'll invite them to a show and say, hey, come check it out. Anytime you want to come, it doesn't have to be a particular show. We're not preparing anything special just because you're coming. This is who we are. And if you think it would
open their eyes, they'll open their eyes.
And also, it's also not for everyone. It's just like anything in ministry. There are some things. There are some. You have to know your congregation. You have to know what people buy into. Not to say that people would snub their nose to it, but for some people, it's just not their thing. And for some churches, it's probably not.
Yeah, but you got some grandmas in that crowd. You probably got you a church that'll do it. I'm just telling you.
I mean, I'm telling you. Listen, I had. That's how I got into wrestling, is watching it with my grandma.
Yeah.
There are plenty of them. I was in middle school. I went with my Aunt Mildred to a wrestling show at the Greenville Memorial Auditorium. Mm-hmm. And my Aunt Mildred, she's sweet lady. She had this high pitched voice, and she loved wrestling, and she'd shake her fist at the bad guy and she'd cheer the good guy. And I'm gonna tell you something, Donna. I walked out that evening and I had bruises all over my arm because my Aunt Mildred would get so mad. She'd reach over and she'd just start punching me. And she'd, I can't believe they did that. I'm like, I didn't do it. Don't punch me. But it was just so fun.
Have somebody dressed up like Medea. So I can give you all kinds of ideas, okay? Because my family is all mixed into all that. When you're an Auburn fan and you're married to an Alabama fan, I promise you'll come up with some ideas.
I understand that.
Okay, 30 seconds left. What would you like to tell everybody before we go?
Well, I just want to say, number one, thank you, Donna, for having me on again. I love being on your show. Love the folks in Abbeville. Love the audience watching on Abundant and listening in on the podcast. If you're interested in having Wrestling for Christ come to your church or your event, reach out to us on Facebook. All you have to do is search for Wrestling for Christ. We'll pop up right there and send us a DM. We'd love to come be part of your event.
Well, thank you again so much. That's the dog barking. That means the show's over. I love animals, so But anyway, thank you again so much, Jody, for being with us today. And thank you guys so much for watching. You're the reason we do this. Continue sending email. I adore them. Donna at donnasedge.com, Donna at donnasedge.com. We'll see you next time.